We've been talking about bloggers, journalists.
The APSU case. I'm even ashamed to say that I jumped on the bandwagon of the APSU case myself, because we saw it at the time as that was news, factual news, and we talked about it. But then it turns out it didn't even happen in APSU or in anywhere near Abia State. So I think the key word there is facts, getting your facts right. So it doesn't matter if you carry a story of a snake with 3 heads. No problem. Is it true?
I think what we have right now in Nigeria is not really journalism. I actually really believe that journalism is in crisis right now in Nigeria. What we actually have is media, and it's all sponsored news stories. Today I was looking through the newspaper and everything was sponsored by an organization, by either a business or a public organization. I think that's really the issue right now. Is people are searching for the truth, and they're not looking at the traditional journalistic sources for the truth. They're actually going online. They're going to individuals, bloggers actually, for the truth.
I think that we should have standards. We should have standards in whatever we do, either as a broadcaster or even as a blogger.
Thank you all for coming today. First of all, there's one thing I just want to make clear is the issue of us using the term traditional media. I think no one actually uses traditional media anymore, because even we, the broadcasters, if we don't develop ourselves and move into what everyone knows now as the new media, it's we, the broadcasters, that will eventually lose our audience, because you can see now almost every channel uses Skype when they're hosting guests. We do that at Al Jazeera. You can see it on different channels. We also use Facebook and Twitter and different medium that you can see through the internet. So I don't really see this gap between bloggers and the media, because it's just like you said, it's just another form of expression. The issue of credibility is I think is the most important issue, that either it's the broadcasters or the bloggers, new media users. I can come in a moment and say, oh, I'm at the office and I can see NNPC is on fire. Okay, this is not true, but what happens is that the impact I make at that moment, of course, maybe 10 minutes later, 1 hour later, I would say, oh, this was false news, or I didn't check my sources. But the point is, the impact that was made by this wrong news has already been made. So even if I apologize, even if someone takes me to court to sue me, the impact is really, it's not easy to reverse that impact.
You raised an example of Ladum Liadi's blog being under some kind of, what is the issue exactly? What's the thing? Did anybody else hear about it? I think I just heard it from him for the first time. So can you?
A certain guy called Nicholas Okoye is suing Google. Sorry? Yeah, just like she said. He's suing Google and Ladun Liadi for 500 million naira. The court had a sitting, and Google is trying to extricate itself from the court. But the case is coming up again on, I think, June 13. And he's seeking damages worth 500 million naira because Ladun Liadi said he embezzled some money from his Nigerian partners, and as such the partnership has failed. So for that he's suing Ladun Liadi. So it is also about responsibility.
Okay. This is in a Nigerian court. Yeah. What do you think? Is your opinion about the way things will proceed? Do you think that, because I know there was a case, something similar like this happened in the US. This is not a new thing for them, but what I'm saying is, I think they had said, let's look at the category this person is. Is this person a blogger, or is this person a journalist? You can't hold somebody who is not a journalist and not associated to NTA or a news station or a radio house or a print paper. You can hold that person by broadcasting laws. So what's your opinion?
My assumptions, what's my perception of the case? I think it's a very, very good precedent, because bloggers tend to take the laws into their hands all the time. I remember a certain incident again involving Ladun Liadi about one Lagos socialite, and she actually, I heard, I can't also confirm, that she followed Ladun Liadi to a salon and beat her up. You know, so this is the kind of trouble that bloggers will find themselves getting into. I also remember RMD saying that he'll take Linda Ikeji to court because she said he had built a house worth, I think, 200 million naira. So more and more, it will embolden other people. I remember sitting down with a minister and she said, you know what, I'm going to take this Linda Ikeji to court. You know, and I had to say, Madam Minister, I think if you take her to court, it will actually blow this issue out of proportion. Just let it go and all that and everything. So I think it will embolden the general public to take bloggers on when this kind of issues arise.
So I'm going to allow someone from this end where the bloggers are to respond.
I think it's regressive to say that people cannot blog or say what they feel online. And I think that it's the internet. I don't know, whoever is in charge of the internet obviously will come up with something to verify whoever has influence.
Okay. Who is in charge of the internet? Golden $1 million question.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to speak about a few issues. First, I think that I agree that the lines are blurring between what is called traditional media and new media. And so it is increasingly difficult for people who call themselves bloggers to say, oh, no, I'm not so and so. Don't hold me to these standards. Now, I also want to make a distinction between what I call those who spoil markets for bloggers and bloggers. Now, if as a blogger, what you do primarily is break news, then you are doing some form of journalism. You cannot call yourself a blogger. I'm a blogger, I'm not a journalist. And some people like Linda Ikeji have actually fallen into that category. And so Linda Ikeji, for example, cannot hide under the banner of blogger. What you do is you break news. You are a journalist as far as media today is concerned. You do journalism. Now, if you choose to be responsible, that's another thing. And like it said, with great power comes great responsibility. And so as long as you have great power, it doesn't matter what you do or where you are, you owe the world great responsibility. So it's very simple. It's like a huge truck, for example. The power of that truck is such that can demolish certain weak concrete structures. The truck owner cannot say, it is my right to pass this road and just ride through any road he sees. He'll destroy things just by the sheer power and weight of the truck. And so for some people, it does not matter the medium. I think for many of us, we are caught in the debate about medium and form. It is in fact, what is more important is content and actually not form. Form can take many different ways. So we have people who would call themselves journalists, but you know what they really do is very trivial and frivolous. And you have people who call themselves bloggers, and what they do is actually very serious, and people take them very seriously.
If you take a picture, just like you said, it's not yours, say it's not yours. Give them credibility for what they did and you didn't do. If you're angry about something and it's your opinion, say it's your opinion. That way the person really knows, see, it's just her opinion.
So sponsored news, we all know that the death of investigative journalism is the biggest issue we have around here. Like we all know, big boys run the media, so even if you have a genuine news or something that you've investigated, you're still, if you're a traditional broadcaster, you're still subjected to your editor's approval. But as a blogger, you just go all out there. But bloggers don't have that support structure to do that investigative journalism. And last but not the least, censorship. Hey, I'll say truth should not be regulated. That's a direct response to what you're saying. Nobody can regulate the truth. But news has to be verified. Thank you very much.
No, basically, for you to be very effective in what you're doing, like talking about the bloggers, I believe it's good for you to carve a niche for yourself.
You know, the last iBlog, I mentioned something about a friend who started blogging. That's when I knew when I heard, I see a blog, what is blogs, what are blogs, you know? And he started a blog. He's a poet, so he puts up his poetry and all of that. But guess what? He's not going to make any money from that. And I think that's what the problem is. Everybody wants to be the next Linda Ikeji. Linda Ikeji is making a killing from what she's doing. Kudos to her. She's seen as the quintessential blogger. She's like anybody who's talking about blogging today will mention, you can't but mention Linda Ikeji, you know. And she has bought cars from that. She put it up on her blog. She's bought SUVs. And she says, look, I want to teach you a lesson. You don't have to spread your legs as a woman to achieve something. And I like that. But here's the thing. People don't understand that she's gone through a lot to get to where she is. And everyone just thinks, oh, look at Linda Ikeji. Why should I be posting my poetry?
I want to go back to this issue of the child sex exploitation. If you can recall, there was a paper I was circulating. It has to do with Twitter's regulation policy regarding sexual exploitation of children. And that is why I believe broadcasters and bloggers need to work together. Broadcasters should be very, very much involved in what the new media is saying in social media. Twitter does not agree. In fact, Twitter is totally against sharing that kind of thing. You know, if the phone had come to me, I wouldn't have watched it. It should stop with the person, and that way it doesn't circulate. And I've never retweeted or tweeted anything that has to do with it, because it could be your own children. You could find a little child, you put something in her mouth and then you share it. Is it going to cause excitement or something like that? So what I do is when I see such policies from Twitter, I circulate it instead. Instead of sharing that video that will go viral in milliseconds, I circulate what the person should now do, because Twitter will now go back and block that account so that it discourages people and people know that they have to stop it. Surprisingly, or maybe, I don't know for Nigeria if there is any regulation for any of that, but I think something like that should happen.
Yeah, if you're on Twitter, you're a blogger, because Twitter is described as a microblogging site. Most importantly, it's the age of the citizen journalist. That means you as an individual, wherever you are, you're a newsmaker. Someone put on Facebook that there was a bomb blast at Wadata Plaza, and I checked his profile and there was a picture, there was his phone number, so I called him up. I said, are you sure that there was a bomb blast and everything? He said, yes, there was a bomb blast. And I started writing my story. I called a couple of my colleagues and they said they were going to rush there. So before I could finish my story, someone from Daily Trust called back and said, I just left there. It's actually a car on fire. Do you understand? So this is purporting from someone who was an eyewitness, but he just saw people running back. And the Chinese whisper effect, what was it? I think it's a bomb blast, and it wasn't actually a bomb blast.
Someone here was saying that we shouldn't have that kind of censorship or self-limitation, but I think freedom is not a point that we can use just anyhow, because there is a saying we have in Arabic language with total freedom is total nonsense, because al-hurriyat al-mutlaqa mafsadatun mutlaqa, that is, total freedom is a big problem, because the point is my freedom ends when it comes to your own freedom. So I wouldn't say, oh, this is freedom of expression, I can say whatever I want. If I'm even going to be the last blog or the last TV station, radio house, the newspaper that will report this issue, as long as I confirm my news, I think that it's just because spreading false information is like a bullet. You don't get killed of it, but it harms a lot of people. Thank you.
So we've had a very heated discourse. Almost everybody talked, and I think we've had a fair share about what we feel about the entire thing. I wouldn't say we had a conclusion as to who won, because at the end of the day, we're on the same side. As in, I like how somebody put it. It's not about the form, it's about the content. It's not about who says what, but what is said, how correct, how true, how credible it is. So I'm going to bring the discourse to a close. I know that several conversations will come out of this discussion. I'm glad that at iBlog we started it, we're talking about it, and I know it will spill over into the other media.